introduce Narayanakumar sir for you. So Dr. Narayanakumar sir started career as lecturer in agriculture economics and later shifted to agriculture research service in 1992. Since then, he has been associated with the Central Marine Fisheries Research Institute in the division of socio-economic evaluation and technology transfer. Sir has also worked in different regional stations of CMFRI such as Kakinada and Visakhapatnam. So since 2012, Sir has been coordinating and facilitating the research programs of the division as head of the division. He has immense research experience in the areas such as fisheries, socioeconomics, status of fisherwomen, and evaluation of ecosystem. So currently, Sir has involved in marine fisheries policy research programs and in Belmont Forum project on global learning from local solutions. So currently, he is posted at the Madras Research Center of CMFRI and now functioning as scientist in charge of the center. So he's a gold medalist in agriculture economics from US, Bangalore, and he was member of board of studies and board of examiners in various agriculture universities. He has also authored several publications. So now I invite Dr. Narayanakumar sir to start the training to the session, sir. Over to you, sir.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, you're audible.
There is some connection issues. Kindly bear with us. I will try to, if it persists, I will change my dongle. That's the problem. Thank you. Can I start the class now?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Thank you, in between. Good morning to everyone, respected members of the faculty of Anand Agriculture University, organizers of NAJP. I could see Dr. Sanjay, Dr. Vinay, and other host members, Dr. Anuja, my colleague, Dr. Ramchandran. Good morning to all. Thank you for the kind words you have spoken. And we have been, as Dr. Anuja explained, our division has been involved in activities not only with respect to socio-economic assessment. It has a diversified view of operations. We have experts in many fields: climate change, marketing, livelihood, responsible fisheries, many. Due to the versatile knowledge, personalities in the division and their vast experiences, they are able to cater the needs of wide clienteles of the fishing community. Now, in the next few hours, I will be taking class on marine fisheries economies in Indian perspective. So this here I am planning to deal with the position on the economics, basics of economics, then how we are operating, and some project examples, then policy initiatives taken. Along with that, I am planning to add some what is a resource economics and all the related disciplines. So this will be an exposure of what we are doing, and it will give an idea about the sector, what is the status of the sector marine fisheries in India now. I would like to share the screen now. Please inform whether you are seeing it. Could you see the screen?
Yes, sir. It is perfect.
Yes, sir.
I am putting it in a slideshow mode. Yes. If there are any discrepancy in presentation, you please inform so that I can arrange. Here, basically, as you are all aware, the subject of economics deals with the basic principle is wants are unlimited, but the means to achieve them are limited. Similarly, the resources are very scarce to meet our needs. The resource allocation is very important. How resources are to be allocated among the competing alternatives for the same resource? This is what one major questions that are being answered. Marginal cost, marginal returns, opportunity cost. They are all the different principles that are coming to our assistance. followed by demand, supply, profit, loss. These are the various aspects or the fundamentals of economics that we are applying in any field. If it is applied in fisheries, we call it as fishery economics. Similarly, we apply in animal husbandry, veterinary, or dairy science like that we can employ. So the basic principles of economics are the same, which we are applying into the different fields to get desired results. In the economics, basically, we are moving, we are contemplating with cost and revenue. In the case of total cost, we are dividing the entire cost into variable cost and fixed cost. And among the variable costs, we get, this is nothing but the out-of-pocket expenses that we make, like fuel, labor, repairs and maintenance, ice, salt, and food. These are all the expenses which we make. These are all the expenses which we make during the every trip. Whereas in fixed cost, we have depreciation, tax, and insurance. Here the difference is, as you are all aware, the fixed cost is one you have to meet it, whether you make a trip or not. Whereas the variable costs are one which is associated only when you are taking up the particular enterprise. Similarly, the gross revenue, it is nothing but the quantity multiplied by price. And the net revenue, well, this is the gross, this is in general what are, in case of fisheries, what is the quantum of fish landed and the approximate price for the respective species, you multiply it and you get the gross revenue. In case of net revenue, it is the gross revenue minus total cost, and net operating revenue is the gross revenue minus variable cost, that is operating expenses. And few more indicators we are developing called capital productivity, labor productivity, earnings per day per crew. These are all the final deductions from the major findings which you are able to assess the economic performance of the fishing methods. Now, coming to the marine fishery economics in India, to give an introduction, there are 10 maritime states. In addition to that, Pondicherry and Daman and Diu, Andaman Nicobar Islands are separate. Lakshadweep Island territories are also separate. But in focus, we are concentrating on the 10 maritime states for the marine fishery economic studies. These are all the, if you want to know the status of fisheries in the Indian economy, fisheries has contributed around 1.24% of the total GDP in 2018-19. The figure is consistent over the years, around 1 to 1.25%. And the total fish production in India 2019-20 is 14.16 million tons. This includes inland and marine fisheries. The annual per capita fish consumption is around 6.56 kg, comparatively lesser compared to the global standards. And the marine fish production in 2019-20 3.72 million tons. In the current year, it has come down to 3.49. The length of coastal line is 8,118 kilometers, and around 3,461 marine fishing villages are present. And the total marine fisherable population is 3.77 million, and active fishermen comes to 0.93. The fisherfolk employed in allied activities is 0.59, and adding the two, the total active fishermen is 1.52. These are the reports we compiled from our division studies and marine fisheries census and fisheries statistics. This is the idea to give an idea about the sector, what it is. Then, with respect to number of crafts, currently we are having around 1.66 lakhs crafts are operating in the Indian in the EEZ of India, out of which mechanized crafts constitute 43,000, around 26%, and motorized crafts around 97,000, 58%, and non-mechanized craft 25,600, 15%. Now, to have an idea about how the fishing fleet has grown over the years, if you see from 1961-62 to 2016 census, it has undergone phenomenal changes. Example, if you see the non-mechanized one, earlier it was only the non-mechanized crafts which had more numbers, like 90,000 in 60, then 1.06 in 77. We can take it from 1980 because in 1980 only our institute started formal census program for collection of the fishing crafts. So if you Anuja, am I audible?
Sir,
Now you are audible.
now you are audible, sir. In between there was some break. So now it's okay,
Okay.
sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, if there is any connection disruption, please inform. I will try to change the connection so that because I have one BSNL connection only we have, but I have got one private connection also. If it is there, I will change it. Okay,
Okay, sir. I'll let you know, sir.
please. So if you see the non-mechanized graphs, it has increased from 1.01 lakh 1.37 lakhs in 1980 to 25,689 in 2016, gradually reduced. The motorist sector started only after 1980s. That is why in 1980 the number of motorists is zero. And the mechanized, if you see, it was only 19,000 in 1990. Now see it is 42, 43,000 now, though it has reached a peak in 2010 around 72,000. So this the number of crafts took change, shifted from mechanized to non-mechanized to motor. So many changes that took place, like outboard motors came, then inboard motors, then some of them are converted. The motor, the government gave scheme to convert non-mechanized boats into motor additional outboard motors. Like that, the changes have taken place over the years. Currently, we have around 25,689 of non-mechanized crafts. Around 97,000. The motorist crafts is more than mechanized crafts is 42,000. Now, what is the gross value of landing? If you see the entire marine fish landings that is being landed in the country, we estimate our division has devised a method of estimating the marine fish landings of the country. It is around 60,088 crores in 2019 at the point of first sale, that is the landing center. And is the last sales, it is 92,356 crores. That is for retail market. The average fisherman share in the consumer rupee is 66%, and the marine product export is 12.9 lakh tons last year, and the value is 46,663 crores. The gross value added is 34,751, which is sharing around 75%. The gross value added is an important indicator of any economy. This indicates the actual amount that the sector is giving to the economy, which is further modified into the share in the GDP and everything. This is calculated. There are various methods of calculating this one that we will see one by one in the coming slides. Then so far we have seen only about the materials, but we have seen now we are seeing the human dimension, rather the social profile, which is involved. In the marine fisher folk population is around 1 crore 952 lakhs, and the adult fishers, the indicator is given. If we see the number of families is 3 crores,
Sir, there is some breakage, sir. You are not audible right now.
If you have his number, give a call.
Okay.
having fisheries as the major source of income. Maybe the proportion varies 70%, 50% like that, but they are all dependent on fisheries as the major source of income, and they are very actively involved in fishing operation. So far, we have given an idea about what is the marine fishery economics profile of the country, giving how many number of crafts employed, what is the approximate income earned, and what is the number of people involved, all aspects. Now, let us go into the next step. The first step in marine fisheries economics is the economic performance of fishing methods. Economic performance of fishing methods. Here, for measuring, hello, I'm hearing ma.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. But in
Okay.
between, the last time, in between somewhere there was network issue, sir.
Okay, one thing, you give me time, I will change my connection. Let me see, because just give me time. ಯಾರಿಗೂ ಇಲ್ಲ ಹಂಗ ಯಾರಿಗೂ ಇಲ್ಲ ಇವರ ಗ್ಯಾರಂಟಿ 287. Mr. Kalu. Now is it okay?
Yes, sir.
I'll change the connection.
Slide mode, sir. Full slide mode.
Yes, I'll come to full slide mode. Yes. Is it fine?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay. I'll change the connection now. So if anything there, you please call me or even call me on my mobile. I'm keeping it by my side.
Okay, sir. I'll call you if there is some interruption.
Yes. Now, this is how we are calculating the economic performance of marine fishing methods. We take for every trip, we take the crew wages, crew beta value, salary of drivers, and make a subtotal called labor cost. Then the inputs like fuel, auction charges, other charges we are taking and calculating as input total cost. Then total operating cost we calculate. Then catch, gross revenue, crew size. Based on the catch, we calculate the gross revenue and crew size. After calculating all these components, we calculate the following 6 indicators. One is net operating income. This is nothing but the gross revenue minus the total operating cost. In case of capital productivity, which is also known as operating ratio, it is the total operating cost by gross revenue. Then labor productivity, which is nothing but catch by the average crew size. Input output ratio, total input cost by gross revenue. And gross value added is nothing but net operating income plus crew share. The gross value added, if you make it as a percentage of gross revenue, you will get the gross value added percentage. This is in general, we are currently working the economic performance of any fishing methods across the country. Now, I'm showing, for example, how we are calculating for the different states across the recent calculations. For example, in case of West Bengal, you see we in Diga and other centers, we compared the multi-trawlers of more than 6 days. And before this, I forgot to give an introduction of what all the different crafts are dealing with. Actually, as I discussed in the earlier sections, there are 3 major groups of sectors. One is called mechanized sector or mechanized fishing. Here, in case of mechanized fishing, both the mechanical power is used for both propulsion and fishing. Whereas in case of motorized sector, the mechanization is used only for propulsion to reach the fishing ground. The rest is taken manually. Whereas in non-mechanized crafts, it is everything done manually. This is the major difference between these 3 sectors. Then within the mechanized sectors, there are different kinds of nets. The major and important among them is trawlers, which is called a dragging net, which is trawlers. The second one is called purseiner. Third one is called gill netter. Then some doll netter is there, long liner. There are different kinds which are operating in different states. So in the case of the West Bengal, we took the comparison between the trawlers which is going less than 6 days and more than 6 days. So if you see, in the case of a trip of less than 6 days, the net operating income is 2,64,499.42, whereas in case of more than 6 is 3.74 lakhs. But normally we concentrate on the ratios, which is more easy for comparison compared to the relative figures. The labor productivity, capital productivity is high in more than 67.46 and less in 0.49. Here, the interpretation is the lesser the value of capital productivity, operating ratio, that indicates more capital efficiency. That means if capital productivity 0.46 that indicate out of the 100 rupees earned by them, 46% is taken care for the expenses and remaining 54% is used for meeting the fixed cost expenses and other expenses. So when this ratio becomes high, the surplus available will be very less. That is why this is also called as an operational surplus. The labor productivity, as usual, depend on the crew size. If the crew size is more and the catch is more, capital productivity will be high. If it is less, the catch per individual labor will be low. The input-output ratio again. Here in the table, as if I go back a little previously, the input and labor are I have divided into specifically into two groups. The labor includes exclusively the labor component like crew wage, crew beta, driver salary, whereas the input indicate fuel, salt, ice, action. So these are different. Here the input-output ratio refers to the actual input used exclusive of labor, how much it is taking place. And the gross value added is high in more than $68 compared to less than 6 days. Next, this is the economic performance of selected fishing methods in Andhra Pradesh. Here you see compared again mechanized, motorized, and different gears. For example, in mechanized, as you said, the name goes by the gears used like trawlers, purseaners, ring seiners, downlifters like that. Whereas in case of motorized, it depends the different types of gears are used. Hooks and line, then disco, these are all different forms of gilnet is the common name. Depending on the regional dialect, it is known as disco wala, jog wala, like that. Here also we measure the capital productivity, labor productivity, input-output ratio, and gross value added. And these are an indicative performance, which gear can be employed and which gear can be employed, which craft should be employed, all those things can be taken up. Then in the case of Orissa again, Orissa, here Orissa is one state which is having more time it is spent on ban and cyclones only normally hardly 6 to 7 months only they go for fishing because of the natural calamities. Also they have some ban due to that olive turtle deadly issues. And mostly they are having the motorized and non-mechanized crafts are plenty compared to the mechanized. There is only one big landing centers for mechanized called Paradip. The others are all operating motorized and non-mechanized crafts, and they are using the different gears. We also compare the capital productivity like 0.558 for hooks and lines, 0.6 for in Gopalpur motorized, then 0.57 in long liner for motorized crafts in Pentagota and Gopalpur we are indicating. Now on an average, if you see everything is more than 50%. That means that is 50% of the earnings is exclusively going for your operating expenses, and over above 50% it is taken for meeting the fixed cost expenses. Here, as you are aware, the fixed cost expenses include depreciation, taxes, insurance, everything. And this is a comparatively a welcoming figure. Once you have 50% revenue, you are giving surplus is available to meet other expenses. So this indicate comparatively better and economic performance of the fishing unit in the state. Then with respect to Tamil Nadu, we are in Ramanathapuram and Chennai. These are all the two major landing centers. Ramanathapuram is the Rameshwaram landing center. Trawl landing, strip and single. Again in trawling, the different fishing methods, days are there. One is called single day trawling, another is multi-day trawling for 4 to 5 days. Then even some trawlers are going for voyage fishing. Then gillnet. Gillnet is another gear which is used is in the east coast, throughout the coast. Here it is used for this is also one of the important mechanized fishing methods, especially in Tamil Nadu. Then again, giving some examples for other areas, different landing centers. In fact, we have, through our division is having a project collecting the entire country from Gujarat to West Bengal, covering the landing centers. We did a project for Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation, about which I am explaining in the next few slides, where we covered more than 40 centers across the country. We selected different craft gear combinations and we arrived at different figures. Then in case of Maharashtra, we got Sassendak, New Ferry Wharf, and Satpati. So these tables I'm giving you to show how the economic performance we assess and compare across the state, across the gears, and normally it is wise to compare the mechanized crafts, motorized, and others separately. You cannot compare all the three because they intrinsically their intrinsic characteristics differ. So this economics, why the economics is needed, I'm telling you in the end. Well, this, other than resource allocation, for policy measures, this is very much important, and we should always relate to the stock, the amount of catch harvested, and the stock available. All these things have to be studied in fisheries management. We are studying. So for fisheries management purpose, economics of fishing operation is very important. Then in Kerala again, Kerala is again one of the very important fishing state in the southwest coast, and it in fact they are the fishermen of Kerala are very innovative. When they introduced the first motorized crafts were introduced in 1980 in Kerala, and they made many modifications. They have introduced from 2 years before thermocol boats. They are always very innovative and try different methods and combinations, and there are different combinations also. And they are using, in fact, that is one of the few states they are switching out to Chinese engine, and any new activity or innovation is coming, they'll be first coming forward to test, like Andhra also. So, now I was telling you about the general all India study we conducted in marine fisheries economics. For the entire country, when we worked out the input-output ratio, the average input-output ratio was around 0.3, that is 30%. It ranged from 14% in Pondicherry to 0.4% in Karnataka. So out of the total revenue, 30% is going for input costs like auction, food, fuel, everything. Whereas the input-output ratio for different states, it is given Andhra Pradesh 0.45, Goa 0.16, Gujarat 0.25, Kerala 0.29. And it also the proportion of the ratio varies depending on the gross revenue that is being realized. The variation is rarely indicated as indicated is due to the proportion of high value species. For example, even though the catch, for example, in one center, the catch is only 300, but it contains maximum proportion of high value fish like sailfish or prawns or black pomfrets or Chinese pomfrets. Naturally, the revenue will be high compared to another another boat, which though it carries 750 kg, but the composition of low value fish. So the composition of the catches decide the value, which ultimately decides the input-output ratio. And we analyze the distribution of inputs, how it is distributed. And 82% of the total expenses is gone by fuel. That is the maximum share in overall across the country. And 7.5% for auction. And food charges 1.9%, jetty rent and water charges. This is exclusively about the factors, namely the inputs. Then this is from the revenue side. What is the investment? The investment, if you see, it is mainly dependent on the investment is mostly in India is on private investment only. Unlike other sectors, there are no government investor in fishing operations as such. The fishing crafts are owned by the private entrepreneurs only, and the maximum investment is by the private. Only in secondary sector like harbors, some processing plants and ice plants, the government and private share. But this investment on fishing equipments is exclusively by the individual entrepreneurs only. In 2017, after that, the census data released only this year, we'll be updating it. Around mechanisms around estimated 23,668 crores, a total investment, out of which nearly The mechanized crafts constituted 92%, followed by this motorized crafts 7% and 1% by the non-mechanized crafts. This is the breakup of the total investment. We say that it is capital inventory because we do not say actual the private. We can say it as private capital formation also. It is synonymous, but it is inventory because the boats are reused. It is not all the boats are fully fresh one. If you see the proportion, first hand boats, second hand boats, third hands like that are there. Normally we take up to second hand boats and depending on the economic life of the each fishing craft we work out. So based on that, currently the contribution, the total value is around 24. Now it is around 35,000 crores with a similar breakup. Maximum share is taken by the mechanized crafts. Then we studied we wanted to make an assessment between investment and profitability that we did for the state of Karnataka, comparing 2014 years data, and we found that the total factor productivity is 2.84% in Karnataka with output interest rate of 6.7%, and the TFP growth is also lower during that period, 42% growth in output. If you see the average capital investment, it is 5,489 lakhs. Then we have taken into account the investment in fisheries harbor also 560 lakhs, and public expenditure on motorized around 801 lakhs. This is the total investment that is taken in the fisheries sector, combining both private and capital. But as I told you, the private investment, capital investment in mechanized has a positive influence because more number of investment is made by the private entrepreneurs, and naturally it has an impact on the output. Whereas the public investment in infrastructure and expenditure in marine fisheries are non-significant because public investment is only infrastructure. That is also now they are making, you must have seen in that 20,000 crores announced last year. They are focusing on various harbors. Recently in Tamil Nadu government, the newly formed government has announced construction of some harbors, and it is slowly coming up, the investment by the government. The public investment in Indian fisheries sector is mainly on infrastructure like processing plants, port, harbors, minor harbors, fishing jetties, and marketing yards. Now, there is a small deviation in this, and in continuation, the another aspect which you have to know is fisheries subsidies. Subsidy normally it is given. It was a point of discussion in the WTO also, where it occurs. The subsidy will be coming up in the economic profitability. Normally that has to be deducted because you are not incurring as an expenditure. If you see, this is the maximum economic yield curve, which I am explaining in the coming aspects. Here, this is the point. What happens, the impact of subsidies. If you see the two curves, TC1 and TC2, the subsidies lower the cost from initially without subsidies, the total cost will be TC1. Whereas if there is a subsidy given for real, if you deduct that cost, the product comes to TC2. Similarly, the bioeconomic equilibrium also will be shifting from BE1 to BE2. So this will encourage more fishing effort from E3 to E4. The reason the impact of subsidies will be on fishing effort, increase in fishing effort. This is only contested by the biology side, whether an increase in fishing effort, what will happen on this stock. So normally, there is always a balance of terms of trade should be occurred between the biological equilibrium and economic equilibrium. That is maximum sustainable yield and the maximum economic yield, about which we are discussing in the subsequent slides. So far, we have seen about what is economics, what is the different methods of economic performance, what are all the different investment involved, about the cost and revenue it has indicated. Now, I was indicating that these information from the economics is used by the policy makers or planners. So let us see the glimpses of national policy on marine fisheries of 2017, which used these different inputs and arrive at some of the management measures. So our national policy on marine fisheries 2017, it governs the marine fisheries sector of India, and it is based on 7 pillars, namely sustainable development, socio-economic development of fisheries, principle of subsidiary, partnership, intergenerational equity, gender justice, and precautionary approach. These are all the various items. Among them, the main focus of these all fishing effort management, fleet size optimization, mainstreaming biodiversity consumption. For example, fishing effort management only indicate how much of we have this fishing effort management and fleet size optimization are related. Our research indicates what is the optimum fleet size. There are various methods to work out the optimum fleet size we are indicating. Based on this optimum fleet size, we normally indicate this much of fishing fleet is enough for carrying out. Whereas the existing strength will be more than that. Then how to do that? So there is some fishing effort management. For example, diversification. Recently, for Tamil Nadu government has come out with a policy to divert the trawlers into longliners, tuna longliners in case of Gulf of Mannar. Of course, that is not due to exactly due to this optimum fleet size, but it is due to counter the problems in Sri Lankan issue. But this is one example where the government through the NFDBs, some of the schemes are encouraging people to go from trawlers to other gears so that the fishing pressure is reduced, like that, to manage. Then mainstreaming biodiversity conservation, because for example, there is one method called fishing ban. They give period for the fishes to stop to regenerate. In some places, they adopt rotation. Like in Thoothukudi in Tamil Nadu, they have the fishermen themselves have come take time rotation basis. 3 days you go for fishing, 4 days. Like that, there are many methods are coming. So putting together various methods of fisheries management are there. The ultimate aim is conservation of fishery stocks to maintain the intergenerational and the intergenerational equity. You are aware the intergenerational equity is between now we are getting fish. We should ensure that the next generation also get fish. So this is exactly the crux of the Bretland report on sustainable development. The development which helps to maintain the resources distributed among you are also having, your next generation also having. That is the aim. That is the intergenerational equity. Intergenerational, even within now itself, across the states, across the sectors, across the gears, how the distribution is making place. These are all the different ideas that is being taken care. And the government has the policy has focusing on ecological, biological sensitive areas approach, vulnerable marine ecosystem. So many methods have been created in the fisheries policy. Then an ecosystem to fisheries ecosystem approach to fisheries management also will be promoted as a policy governance. Public investments, private investments will be promoted in offshore of fishing operations because is it okay, Vanija? You are hearing?
Yes, sir, we can hear you. There was a brief interruption, but immediately we can hear you, sir. Now you can hear.
Okay. So as we are discussing about the private investment, now they wanted to do it in offshore fishing. Now, the deep sea fishing is an area which is not touched by many of even our own entrepreneurs because of the huge cost involved in the vessels and the economics of operations itself. Of course, there is a question regarding how much is remunerative, what are the deep sea resources, what is the marketing availability. Leaving it apart, there are resources which can be exploited in the deep seas, but only thing, you should have additional facilities for onboard processing, freezing, and even for sailing. So I remember in 2016, the Government of India Human Resource Development Ministry came out with a proposal for capacity development to improve the skills of our own fishermen to work in deep sea area. Because the traditional fishermen have some intrinsic skills. Why can't they be given additional training so that they can be, instead of now if you see in deep sea fishing, some of the companies employ crew from abroad who are good in fishing. Whereas if we are having huge manpower, why can't they utilize that scheme? Is still in practice, they are trying. Then a minimum legal size is being prescribed. This is also based on the different studies. Of course, these are all based on some biological studies. They indicate what should be the minimum legal so that the juveniles are left free. And from the economics supports this proportion by indicating, if you follow the minimum legal size, what will be the revenue that you are expected to get after the regular period of growth of respective species. That way the economics come into play. So in all these aspects, the biology and economics are closely linked to explicit To promulgate a biological advocation or recommendation, you need an economic support, because if you follow this recommendation, this will be the benefit in terms of money you require. That's what we are doing. To give that supporting evidences, we are working out the economic performance of various fishing methods and incorporating various dimensions and parameters that are coming out of the research expertise by the biologist also. Then Marine Fishing Regulation Act. Fishery has being a state subject also up to 12 nautical miles. Each state has their own Marine Fisheries Regulation Act, and within their territorial waters, they have some regulation. The regulations vary, like regarding mesh rates, closing seasons, and even they have the sizes to be a size of fish at catch. Everything is being done. That is being done by the respective state governments. Now, so far I have done purely from the economics point of view. Fisheries economics as a commodity, fishery as a commodity. Now, I am going to the next aspect, which is called fisheries resource economics, treating fishery as a natural resource, like land, water, fishery also as a natural resource. Once the dimensions of natural resources is different. If you see renewable resource, if you see fishery, it is a renewable resource, but they are not inexhaustible. I think yesterday Dr. Jaishankar must have covered about the resources aspect. Mine will be a little supportive to him. Some of them are overlapping, like sustainability overlapping. Please bear with it, because we are both the statistics and these are related. That's why I'm covering this aspect also. Now, the fisheries is normally coming under the common property resource. As a result, we are normally able to not able to attain a comprehensive management pressure. You must have heard of the famous concept of tragedy of commons. When too many when too many grazing cattle are found in an open grazing method, ultimately the entire ground is grazed, nothing. Similarly, here also, with no access controls, if number of fishing crafts are increased and people are improved, number of people are increased, naturally the resource available, the stock depletion will be very less, will be very high, leaving only lesser resource for the next generation to come. And the size of the stock depends on the biological, economic, all the same. That's what I'm telling you. Biological consideration deals with sustainable yield. Economic deals with the socially economic optimum. Similarly, there is one called socially optimum yield also. But what is the difference between the developed and developing countries? Means, for example, in Western countries, like it is very specific, Peruvian anchovy, Atlantic salmon, this cod and everything, because the the temperate country, the species diversity is very limited. In fact, it is restricted to 1 or 2 species, where it is very easy for you to implement any regulation measures. Whereas in case of a tropical country like India, we have diverse species. I think if Dr. Deshmukh also told you, we are having around 85 groups. We have identified more than 600 to 700 species are being caught across. That is the diversity of the fishing species are caught in the Indian sector. Naturally, that complicates the process of management also. In fishery research economy, there are 3 major items. One is called the resource rent, another is optimum harvest, another is sustainable yield. How this is related from economic point of view, if you see, the resource rent is equal to total revenue minus total cost. The resource rent decides the profit. This is in general about the basic principle of revenue minus cost only applies here. Here, the profit what we require, attain, we related to the resource rent. Actually, it is, though it is known as economic profit from our point of view, it is actually the resource rent which we have to pay for the resources. Then optimum harvest occurs when average cost is equal to average revenue. This is an important concept, because in normal economic optimal, if you see the Venn farm management and fisheries management principle, we will say that the optimum level of production occurs when the marginal cost is equal to marginal revenue. The concept of marginal cost and marginal revenue is not applicable in fisheries sector, and we always go for the average cost and average revenue. And the sustainable yield, we have 2 concepts. One is called the maximum sustainable yield. Another is maximum economic yield. We will see a few glimpses of these items in the next few slides. This is, I already told you, the equity between intra-generation and intra-generation, and we have associated effects are positive externalities and negative externalities. And the property rights are three: open access, common property, and private property. Those are the private property as owned by certain individuals like farm ponds and everything. The common property also is there. For example, village tanks, village ponds, it is there. And open access, it refers to sea and oceans where it builds across the different countries, nations, and borders. Now I'm giving you a little glimpse of sustainable fisheries yield. The maximum sustainable yield, which is commonly referred as the sustainable fisheries yield. That means the level of catch or yield that can be harvested from the given system in perpetuity over the generation without affecting the stock of the system. And if a catch level is to be sustainable, whenever it equals the growth rate of the population, since it can be maintained forever, as long as the population size remains constant, the growth rate will remain constant as well. Normally, we say the sustainable rate is equal to twice the half the carrying capacity. MSY by 2 is carrying capacity, and the MSY and sustainability and carrying capacity is related. This is the graphical representation. You see X1 and the biomass is indicated and the instantaneous growth rate, and the U-shaped bell-shaped curve. The middle is coming the XMOS, which is called the maximum sustainable yield. Then where economics comes here, what is the role? Why economics should be there in fisheries management? Because in earlier period, the fisheries management, the economics is focused on controlling the effort to maintain the fish stocks, with the assumption that if the control measures are strictly implemented, the further increase will be effective. But they found that it is not possible. Such a controlling effort will be is not producing enough results, and they should go from the controlling measures failed to control the fishing effort, and also they went for substitution. They suggested the remedies suggest also whatever remedies they suggested to improve, they miserably fail to control the fishing effort. Now, the economic perspective of fisheries management should not only manage sustainably, but also in the way to contribute to provide net benefits for the nation as a whole. The nation, nothing but the individual also. So that is why I was telling you earlier, there is a little bit of conflicting ideas between the biological optimum and economic optimum. The economic optimum need not be the biological optimum because of its own, it is mostly related with cost and revenue, whereas the sustainable yield is purely on the biological aspect, growth rate, carrying capacity, mortality rate, everything. So how we can bring a bridge between these two, that is all still going on even the decades now, and they are in some cases they were able to reach and they are still trying to find out a middle path between these two. So the general arguments is the sustainability and economic profitability are complementary. They are not competitive and mutually exclusive. This is after coming out from sustainability, this is called the maximum economic yield. I'm just rushing through because this contains mostly the formulas and the even. The total revenue is carried with price and effort. Well, the maximum economic yield is realized at a level when the effort in which sustainable net return from the fishery is maximum. In the sustainable yield, it is the catch that is sustainable over the years in perpetuity. In case the sustainable net return is maximum, that is the end point of maximum economic yield, that is being calculated using the following methods like total revenue, then price, then resource rent. Then this is the actual, this graph I already showed you also. You see the total cost curve TC, which is nothing but the cost into effort. Then the total revenue is the bell-shaped curve. The difference between where it means TC and TC is called the TRC equal to pay, that is called the economic profitability. And the difference between if you see the maximum difference occurs at the point H star and the E star, That is called the maximum MOI. That this rent is called a resource rent, and this is called the maximum economic yield. That I'm combining both the two graphs which are shown independently were brought into same figure, noting the differences between these two. Combining the difference by effort, marginal cost and marginal revenue. Here we are treating only with average revenue. It is not marginal revenue. Average revenue should be equal to average cost. That is the point of optimization in the fisheries yield. So this is the explanation of what I told earlier. I'm skipping these slides. At MEY compared to MSI, the fish catch is lower, but the profit is higher. MEY is where more fish is conserved and economic is the front of conservation. As Grafton and Dixon found that at MEY compared to the MSI, the fish catch is lower, and hence which is more MEY is more concerned with fisheries conservation. It is the conclusion arrived at by Dixon and Grafton. However, this maximum economic yield is subject to certain assumptions. It again depends on the price and cost of fishing. Any change in these two is drastically going to affect the MEY, which will ultimately affect the balance. That is the caution to be taken. These steps I'm leaving it. The standardization of fishing effort is mainly to, as I was informing earlier, the effort done by the different sectors are varying. You cannot compare the effort of mechanized, motorized, and even across the seasons. So the different category of vessels, there are some methods to develop to uniform, like giving some weightage. Just like your weighted average, they are applying some weights for standardization of fishing effort for using in the calculation. Then, as it informed you, the factors affecting MEY is these are the assumptions we make. Zero discount rate, cost of fishing is a simple linear function. Fishing cost rise proportional to the effort. If the discount rate is very high or large, MEY will correspond to economic equilibrium. Then maximizing economic viability of fisheries is compatible with economic sustainability. Only if the assumptions are valid, this MEY is applicable. When the assumptions are going not met, then naturally the management point is subject to change, and it will have its implications on the recommendations. This is again repetition, it has come. The cost of fishing and is an important factor. Lack of complete other aspects which why the MEY is people are some criticism that may come occur is the value of the target versus catches and splitting efforts and related aspects will vary. Lack of complete biological data. We do not have the complete biological data to estimate the stock recruitment relationship. The price of fish and the precise cost of fishing also it varies, and we need a time series data on input. Normally, we have a time series data for output, landings, whereas this has to be done systematically, collecting the inputs over the years as an experiment from different fishing methods, which some of them fishermen only are likely to part. So some permutation and backward formula methods are done. Then some based on the average, some concessions, some filling ups are made. As a result, the continuity of time series data in input cost is also is an important requirement to work out a clear MEY. Sorry. This like MSY, MEY is also a target point, reference point for fisheries management. But if the resources are used beyond the MEY target, it will result in excess fishing capacity, lower returns, and thus lower profits. So the economists say that it will pay a rich dividend if you follow MEY, because the MEY aims is an important component for aiming at a sustainable fishery, and also the MEY is lower than MSY. So the economists favor that. Please go for MEY. This is from their point of view. Then, what are all the factors we have studied so far is now implemented in the next point called fishery regulation. Why fishery regulation is needed? As we told that when there is an open access or common property resource where everyone has equal right to fish. So naturally, there will be a faster and depletion rate will be very high. In that case, how to control the open access fishery or common property, what are the methods that can be done to prevent over exploitation or over harvesting or over capitalize or even to reduce the externalities that is being caused? How to do it? In open access fishery, negative externalities are many. That's why this regulation is required to prevent over exploitation or harvest, and in different methods possible. But when the regulation, when we are taking into regulation, it depends on the status of property right, like state or private or common property or open access. For each of these four property regimes, the regulation methods will be different. If it is a private property, you can completely exclude the non-users. Whereas in common property, how to exclude the people who are not following the regulations. In open access, how to do it. These are all the challenges that are posing in the regulation process across the country. What I am going to tell is some of the methods that are adopted in different countries, but not in Indian condition. These are all the things that are available called total allowable catch in Western. These are available in developed countries, but only some are tried to be implemented, but not successfully in our country. It is not possible. Just I'm giving an idea to know these are all the methods that are available for fishing. The total allowable catch. This one with a correct estimate, and this is the traditional management agency determines, and the cumulative years catch is tracked. They do the calculation. The length of fishing season also has to be determined in advance based on estimate, and they give the total allowable catch for this type of fishery for this year is this much. You should not catch beyond this, and they are able to implement it and they monitor it. But the economic side effects will be there will be heavy competition from the vessel operators to take their share of TSA before the stipulated closing time, and they increase the vessel capacity before that time. As a result, this is also will be may prove to be disastrous. Then individual transferable quotas. This is also based on for each fishery is allotted. Okay, you are able to catch some 1,000 tons of fish this year based on different criteria they work out. But sometimes this quota can be purchased. If individual X wanted to share his quota, he can make a trade-off with Y, and this is one of the method designed to regulate the fisheries. Taxes. The taxes are imposed on the landed catches. This is being done in our country also. They have currently especially in juvenile fishing, they are taxing, they are charging imposing fines for bringing undersized fishes. This is one of the method which sounds to be practically possible in our multi-tropical fishes like our country. In this method, the net price receipt for the catch is reduced due to taxes, and the taxes reduce the incentives for overfishing. The mechanism of taxes fixing varies from state to state and country to country, but taxing is found to be one of the reasonably substantial welcoming method or accepted method for regulation. The last concept I am going to deal with the responsible fisheries management. I'm thankful to Dr. C, my colleague Dr. Ramchandran, who has taught me this subject when he came. We had lots of discussion in this particular aspect when we had earlier. And he has translated the Responsible Code of Fisheries in Malayalam and made a huge effort. The long-term sustainability of living marine resources can be done by making a substantial contribution to world food security and employment opportunities. This is the objective. There are some major differences like a fishing vessel, fisher, owner, manager. These are the components of the responsible fisheries management. Charterer, an individual, fisheries protection, transshipment. Just to give an idea about what are the different components. These guidelines may be applied by the voluntary basis to all fishing operations on all oceans. Fishers, owners, managers, and all fishing vessels engage in transshipment of fishes. These are all taking place. There are various guidelines that are given for responsible fisheries. There is exclusive code of conduct for responsible fisheries management by FAO, which has to be adopted voluntarily by the different states. For all the states, we have the different groups: flag states, fisheries production, fishing activities, for energy optimization. For different guidelines are there. Even there is for design, construction, notification of harbors is there, and removal of redundant offshore structures and creation of artificial reefs, deployment of fish aggregating. These measures are there. So in general, for the last whatever I have included, I want to make some few conclusions. The economic performance helps to assess the profitability of the business. That is the basic criteria. Unlike any business, our main aim is to see the economic profitability. Now you may ask a question, whether currently the Indian fishery economy or marine fisheries in India is profitable. The answer is both mixed, yes and no. That depends. There is a profitability is there, but the sustainability of profit over the years across the year is a little not there because due to the different conditions. But if you come in general, because if there is no profit, number of fish in the fishermen involved in fishing will be very drastically reduced. The situation are not ground to that size, so it is providing some reasonable substantial profit. However, the cost of fishing is increasing, which makes the fishermen reluctant to go for fishing, and they are trying to optimize the major two resources, namely labor and fuel. It also helps to justify the allocation of resources to each sector. Each sector here I mean mechanized, motorized, and non-mechanized. As an individual private investment entrepreneur, he will see what will be the net return he will get per year, economic return what he will get, what will be the payback period for my loan getting for purchase of it. So this assessment of economic performance will give an idea for the people to invest on resources. It helps the policy planners to formulate appropriate development and support measures. This we have seen how we have helped in the policy formulation by assessing subsidies in some areas, providing grants, in some cases providing total supply free in some cases. Those things are decided by the economics operations and the actual investment return relationship. And from the academic point of view, these ratios are used as coefficients in advanced econometric policy analysis. There are many analyses like total factor productivity, then policy analysis matrix. In all these things, you must have come across coefficients. For each development of these coefficients, the cost and return, the net operating ratio or capital ratio or input-output ratio are being used as a coefficient for each sector that is used for further analysis. Again, for all management measures, the economics is the basis. Without economics, the management measures will not be successful. That is more. And also, we have to find out the middle point between biological and economic out involving all stakeholders. That is what I was telling about the difference between economic yield and sustainable yield. And this is one point which we are slowly going back now. Earlier, there are many traditionally community-based management practices followed across the country, different places. Once, say, example I cited in case of Green Fisheries Harbor, they still follow. They follow alternate day rules. 3 days the fishing is done by the more mechanized people, another 4 days for the non-mechanized and motorized. They follow timings also. They issue tokens. This they do it voluntarily. No, by external, nobody is forcing them. Like that, there are many methods which we do not know or which is not coming under the purview. There are merits and demerits of such measures. So those things can be traced back and then study the merit of it, the science behind it, and how we can implement that will be really it will be successful. You involve them, and the participatory approach is very important. Where any formula fishery management measure will be successful only when you involve the primary fisherman with you. The primary fisherman should be there so that his ideas and his implement is being heard. And once it is decided, enforce the formulated may here. The enforcement is another issue, which is itself is a subject. How it is enforced. Some cases, the enforcement, there are so many considerations are coming up in enforcement, but it requires the cooperation of all the stakeholders involved by a strong academic, administrative, and political will. There are so many factors involved. This is very much essential. It is a combination of all aspects, as we discussed in one slide. It is economic, social, and biological considerations. Even if economic and biological considerations are taken up, the social considerations is a very tricky issue as it deals with people who are very much bound for having emotional bias, and so many things are there we have to overcome through negotiation and discussion. In fact, that decides the success of the other two. Thank you. For these are the points which I would like to explain to you on various aspects. I hope I have touched upon the various aspects of current fisheries economics and Indian perspectives. I would like to get questions to clear your doubts, questions, anything from your side.
Sir, very nicely explained by you, sir. I just pick some of the points from your presentations and from the chat box as well.
Okay.
On that basis, sir, I like to go through your more input in that directions. Sir, you have told that when there is a subsidy or when there is the taxes, somewhere there is the overfishing. And fisheries fish doesn't mean that it's a commodity. It's related to the livelihood, related to the natural resource management and all these things. So, sir, the question is that whether it is wise to go through the top to bottom policy measures, or whether it is better to go for the bottom to top policy measures for sustainable fishery systems.
So it actually not both. It is not subsidy. Taxes is not least to overfishing. Taxes is a method to regulate. This concept of what you say is subsidy related leads to overfishing. That is the context which all the developed countries are blaming India. But there is some proportion. Good subsidies and development aided subsidies. There are some components in that. Our subsidies never go beyond for over exploitation. It is only for minimum support for the fishing community as such. And the whatever subsidy component we are giving is only to sustain the business to provide some economic incentive, but they should not, as he rightly said, they should not give incentive for overfishing by addition of more number of crafts or more number of employed. That is what they are taking care. And for this purpose only, what you suggest, the participatory approach is very important. As I told in my last concluding remarks, is stakeholders should, each and everyone should realize that this is the amount of investment we can make. If we go beyond that, it will be have an impact on population that will be there. And again, but from if you see from the fisherman point of view, what is the incentive for conservation? If I forego the cash today, who will support my family? That is the main question. For this purpose only, I had an opportunity to work with the German biodiversity project. They have decided the incentives for biodiversity conservation. They had a very broad project. They wanted to say how much incentive can be given if you want to the share. That's still going on. So the fishermen have to be provided, if there are any ways of providing some incentives for them for conserving of fishery resources. We can aim at sustainable fishing also. It's only a broad, a wild thought which will be helpful. The initiation should come from the individual fishermen, for which we are trying to involve them in all the levels of discussion. That is the main aim of us, contention of the fishery management.
Right, sir. Sir, in one of your slides, you have highlighted that the average producer share in the consumer rupee is around 65.6%. It may be due to the direct marketing, whatever the fishers catch directly sell to the, maybe due to the consumers, because somehow our sector is highly unorganized. It needs to be again in your last part of your slides, you have highlighted the responsible fisheries, maybe towards more cooperatives and the farmers producer organizations. So my question is that unlike Southeast Asia, where the co-management systems is quite good, in India it is not quite not feasible, or somehow it is not in the same way, just like the Southeast Asia and all these things.
We can, for your first point, that is the average ratio of price spread is around 67%, that is across the species. That indicates we have to still make an intervention in case of marketing infrastructure. The remaining 40% is mainly taken by the intermediaries for different marketing functions. And one point is that we have to understand the marketable surplus which is available with us is compared individual fishermen is low. You require for some assembling function. Say, for example, fish is a very highly perishable commodity. It cannot be shared, stored for more than 4 hours or 5 hours. So if you have, suppose I need, as a policy authority, I can say that, okay, you bring your fish, I'll keep it for 3 hours as a collective. I can create a cooling facility. I'll create this facility, you can store it here. But this involves some cost of it. Here, government as an incentive can develop such infrastructure. So, and as a result, he will be getting some other portion of the marketing function. And also again, that is the average figure of 60%, it is across the different species. Again, there are subgroups. There are some premium varieties which is getting more than 80 to 85%, and some varieties which are not even getting 40 to 40%. This type of subgroups is also there. But to increase the proportion of the consumer rupee, that 67% is when 100 rupees is paid by the consumer, 67% the fisherman receives, the remaining 33% is taken by the middleman or whoever may be. If you want to improve that share, you directly improve the link between the fisherman and the final consumer. Rightly what you have said, like co-management and fisherman produce organization. I think like agriculture, fishermen also now grouping up as producers organization. In fact, I have received a request from an agency whom they want to group the fishermen producers as a group, and they wanted some training. Like that, the fishermen also group themselves as producers organization, try to make some share the responsibilities and resources. Definitely, the share of fishermen will increase, and we can go for it. Again, co-management is another area in which the research is being done by our division. We are propagating it wherever it is feasible. It requires like-mindedness and also again the open-mindedness to understand the situation and the sharing of the resources between us and across the generation. That is, we are also taking care. Again, ultimately, what are all the regulation measures we take in different aspects? The concern and the willingness of the primary stakeholders is very important for the success of this program. After I had an opportunity to interact with the fishermen here, we conduct stakeholders meeting. There is a big, for example, in Madras, there is a big group between gillnet fishermen, trawler fishermen, non-mechanized. All the people are having conflicting ideas. But sometimes they say, sir, trawlers, if you want, okay, you allow them during particular season. But you allow us for the remaining rest of these 2 months so that it is not the use that did not interfere with us. They are having some ideas and they are giving like that, but how far it is scientifically valid, that is being all such suggestions have been forwarded to the ministry last year for arriving at a policy decision. Why I am telling this? Because when you get people with diverse ideas across the table and share their views and make them feel important and emphasize the importance of the stock responsibility for stock conservation, resource conservation, people will be listening, but it cannot be an immediate step. Gradually, people are coming to that line, and there is a positive trend to come to co-management, fisher produce organization. All are coming up in the years to come for a successful, sustainable fishery management. That's what I personally feel.
Right, sir. Sir, you have highlighted about the economic rent. It's a price over the cost. But the thing is that one of the report highlighted that around 70% of the fishery marine fishery harvested in the month of September. So automatically then when there is a high amount of the catching of the fish in very few time period, automatically the price will be the lesser. Then, sir, I think it impact on the biological stock than the economic.
Yes, this is what I was telling you. The biological yield and economic MEOI and the MSOI are totally a little bit conflicting ideas with respect to sustainability and economics. That depends on the catch proposition also. The resource rent also should be distributed. We are studying it. Still, we have not completed that. Across the over the seasons also we have to study. You are rightly said. In some seasons the resource will be very high. Some season will be low. They reflect that will look into it. This is a point of contention between these two concepts, economical and sustainability. Yes.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. This is from our side. Anuja, over to you. Anuja, ma'am.
Sir, is there any questions from the participants, sir? Means in the YouTube.
Only one question may or may not. I don't know. Sorry. One question has come from the chat box. I don't know it is directly connected with the topic. Trawlers has played a major role in the marine fish crop productions. The average size of the fish has also been declined because of the overfishing. In your opinion, sir, what can be the other sustainable fishing methods to sustain the fishery productions?
Okay. See, in the Indian condition, if you see the statistics itself, the maximum number of mechanized vessels are trawlers. Out of the 45,000 and odd mechanized vessels, more than 60% are trawlers only. And trawling net is a dragging gear so that it bites so that there are many regulation methods to prevent bottom trawling. Then people are going for advocating for mid-water trawling. There are different methods they are suggesting. And there is a reduction of over average size of fishing over the years. It has come down. The biological people would, especially Dr. Zacharias is taking your class 2 days back. He'll be explaining more about the reduction average size over the years. It has taken place. For this purpose only, I listed one point called minimum legal size. Our entire fishery management has come out with a concept called minimum legal size. This varies which state to state. For Kerala, our institute has given minimum legal size for around 33 species, which has been announced to by, excuse me, just a minute, I need some more. Sorry, I have some throat issue, so I could not talk continuously.
Okay.
Coming back, but minimum legal size is being recommended by our institute research efforts. So for each mesh size for trawling, this should be the minimum size. If they indicate for each species, this is the type of mesh size to be followed, and they advocate the concerned the State Department because the control of these things coming well with the State Department. So the State Department of Fisheries, they tell them, you see that this is being employed. Like that, this type of measures are implemented mainly to improve the size of the fish and also prevent a large number of juveniles to be caught. Kerala, it is being done. Tamil Nadu, we have recommended. Karnataka already have been submitted. For other states also, we are working through the respective policy document and implementing so that the fish caught by the trawlers will be safe and it will have the less proportion of juveniles and we will have more number of adults surviving by following these measures.
Sir, another question has come not directly to the presentations, little bit of the broader one. Sir, one of the participants highlighted that, sir, increasing the fish meal and the fish oil, this type of the commodity, this type of the infrastructure has increasing nowadays to substantiate the other infrastructure just like the food sectors. Then ultimately it impact on the very targeted fisheries, particularly in the marine areas. Your views, sir, whether it will be impact on
definitely. What the observations made is very correct. In fact, if you go for more number of fishery oil meal and fish plants, there is every chance of for target fishing. This is being dealt by the ministry and higher researchers also. There are many reports on this, whether we should recommend this or not. This is a point of concern. The biologists say that they should be treated with caution. Only those fish which are coming as a trash or dry fish with discards, which is naturally due to them, should be allowed. You should not go for exclusively. There should not be any target fishing for fish meal plant. That is the recommendation by the fishery managers.
Okay. Okay. All questions has covered. Anuja ma'am, it is open to you.
Okay, thank you, Shakti sir, for handling this session very actively, sir. Sir, on behalf of all the organizers and participants, I would like to extend a sincere thanks to you, sir, for taking a very relevant topic in a very interactive manner, sir. The session was quite interesting, sir. So on behalf of all the participants and this training program, we would like to extend our heartfelt thanks to you, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I am thankful to all the organizers and my division colleagues, Ram Chandran, Dr. Shyam, Ashwati, Saudalashmi Johnson, because whatever I have presented today is a combination of effort of my division. All the people have worked out in different areas, in different states. Dr. Vipin Kumar worked in Gujarat, he submitted. Then Dr. Shyam worked in Maharashtra, and Dr. Shinoj working in Karnataka now. Saudalashmi helped in Virinjam and in Karnataka earlier. Johnson is helping from Tamil Nadu. Then Dr. Raju and now Charles was coming from Visakhapatnam. Dr. Ramchandran is helping me in providing the responsible and giving insight into co-management, participant management. So Dr. Ashwati has helped in total factor productivity, all the analysis. All my colleagues overall for the last 20 years, we have helped this to develop this type of work. And whatever I have presented today is from the different projects collected from as a result of various projects work. In fact, I'm immensely thankful to all my division colleagues, which has helped me to make this presentation. Thank you one and all for each and every one. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.